Right, that's enough from me. Time to hand you over to John Blackmon of ELB Learning, taking us through rethinking procedural training with virtual reality and games. John, over to you.
Thank you very much. And good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Rethinking Procedural Training with Virtual Reality and Games. So your presenters today will be myself, John Blackmon. I am the CTO here at ELB Learning, and Stephen Baer, Chief Creative Officer at ELB Learning as well. So a little bit about us. I've been in the e-learning industry for over 23 years now, beginning with creating the first e-learning authoring tool, Lectora. Some of you may be familiar with that. And also its companion review tool, ReviewLink. I'm also the creator of our virtual reality authoring product, Scenario VR, which we'll be talking a bit about today. Stephen, who will be going through a lot of glasses changes during the day, see if you can catch each time he switches glasses and puts that in the chat. But he's been creating award-winning games for over 20 years now, and he's been disrupting traditional learning methods with gamification techniques. Stephen is also a monthly contributor to Forbes.com. So let's begin by talking about who ELB Learning is, in case you're not familiar. We recently went through a rebranding from eLearning Brothers, you may have heard of eLearning Brothers before, to ELB Learning, but it was much more than just a name change. Previously, eLearning Brothers was known as a provider of templates, cutout people, and stock images. But now we try to represent what we do with the wheel that you see here, divided between products and services. On the services side, we've always been strong in creating custom learning and using a variety of tools, and that tool set is now bigger than it has ever been. But now we're also finding that our customers are looking for staff augmentation. They're looking for extra people for individual projects that they're taking on, or perhaps there are certain periods of time that they just need some extra help. So, and we're also able to consult with your overall learning strategy if you're looking to streamline your learning operations. And we now have a full product line for all of your e-learning needs. It begins with Lectora and Lectora Online for your more traditional authoring needs, as well as LMS and LXP offerings with Course Mill and the Rockstar Learning Platform. But we continue on from there with video practice in the form of rehearsal, which allows you to add AI-based video coaching to your learning. And finally, at the top of the wheel, the most important part, I like to think, we have two areas we're going to focus on today, virtual reality and gamification. Our product in gamification is the Training Arcade, which allows you to quickly create and deploy gamified learning to your whole organization. And for virtual reality, we have Scenario VR, which allows anyone to create their own immersive learning content and rapidly deploy to the web, mobile devices, and VR headsets at the same time. So that's a whole lot. So what experience do we bring to the table to do all this? Well, currently, 80% of the Fortune 100 companies use ELB learning services or products with over 5,000 learning experiences created for a variety of platforms. Over 1.3 million students take courses hosted by or created by ELB learning products every year, and we have over 10 million game sessions played to this point. We've won over 155 different industry awards for our products and content over a 21-year history of growth and experience. And I'm proud to say I've been a part of it for all of those years. That also means I'm kind of old, but we're going to skip that part. So today we're going to be talking about how virtual reality can help make your training more immersive, as well as look at a few examples of VR training experiences to get an idea of how it can be used in your area. We'll then look at how games and game-based learning can make your training more engaging. And then several examples there you'd like to see how that would apply to your organization. And we'll also look at how measuring training success can work with these new training methodologies. All right, we're going to take our first look and we're going to look at virtual reality. So the first question to ask is, why virtual reality? I mean, there are many reasons. PwC recently did a study comparing virtual reality training on soft skills to both traditional e-learning and classroom-based training. And they found some pretty amazing statistics. What they found was VR training was 4 times faster than traditional classroom training. And that doesn't even include the time and cost to actually travel to the classroom, which is certainly a factor to consider. They also found that students were almost 4 times more emotionally connected to the content than their classroom-based peers. And compared to their e-learning peers, VR-trained students were 275% more confident in applying what they're taught and 4 times less distracted. So these are some great numbers, and they make for a very compelling case to use VR training. So in short, you get better results in less time. Nice way to describe it. And this is because your brain perceives virtual reality as active participation in a procedure. And so it stores it in a more permanent area of your memory. Passive participation, like clicking on the next page, in a page turner piece of content, that's stored in a more temporary area of your brain, and it can degrade rapidly. It's like getting a phone number really quick and getting it down. It goes away very quickly. You forget about it very fast. And I don't know about you, but for me, that temporary area is getting shorter and shorter all the time. So if it's that great, if VR has all of these benefits, what is slowing it down? Why are there, the investment is not greater in immersive learning? And I think that's because there's a lot of preconceived notions about immersive training. A lot of people come in there with thinking things like they imagine that creating that content is so difficult or so expensive, and that's probably because they've seen some really cool VR games, or at least seen videos of some great games, and they think they're going to have to spend a lot of money and hire a programming staff and maybe a 3D designer to design spaces and create content. And then getting that content out to people, the distribution of content, that's a huge question too. Do I have to buy VR headsets for my entire staff? How do I get that content out to people? It's different content. It's different than people are used to working with. Well, the reality is that the best VR training is really based on photorealistic images and videos generated by shooting with a consumer level 360 camera. So you don't really need that 3D designer to design out all your spaces. And headsets are simultaneously getting better and less expensive day by day, unless you count the Meta Oculus Pro, which is more expensive, but we're not going to go there. And you don't have to get everyone a headset right out of the gate to take advantage of immersive learning. Content can be delivered via the browser, mobile device, and headsets at the same time. And the final point on there is now a tool available on the market right now that allows anyone to create immersive learning with ease, and it's called Scenario VR. So how do you create content in Scenario VR, right? This is usually the biggest question, right? Something new, it's different than we've done it in the past. Do I have to come up with a completely new way of doing things? Well, yes and no. Much of it is the same. There's really just 4 simple steps. First, you capture your procedure with images or video using a 360-degree camera, and a consumer level camera is just fine. There's a lot of cameras on the market, and they all work well for VR training. You then upload those images or videos to Scenario VR, and Scenario VR is where you make it interactive, right? So it's just following a video along is not immersive training. You need to make it interactive. You need to let people choose their own path as they go through, and that's what Scenario VR brings to the table. You can make things as simple as a tour through the content, all the way up to a drag and drop part assembly or motion paths and animated 3D objects. So you can get very deep into it, or you can make it very simple, depending on what you want to do. Then you publish. In Scenario VR, you get many publishing options, including publishing to CVR itself, which is not just an authoring platform. It's a posting and distribution platform as well. Using this option gives you access to the native Scenario VR runtimes on all of the popular headsets, as well as use of Scenario VR's worldwide CDN for pushing high bandwidth 4K video out to anywhere in the world. That's great, but you can also publish to SCORM, XAPI, or CMI5 and put it directly on your LMS in whatever format your LMS can handle. You can even publish out directly to HTML5 and put it on a website or even embed it in a traditional learning module as a 360 section. So that's something that's a little bit different. You can kind of have a hybrid course. There's even an option for a Windows offline publish in case you'll be deploying to a kiosk model, in which case you need to get the content out on something like a plant floor or some situation in which internet connectivity won't be an option. And the final part is tracking that content. So Scenario VR content is natively XAPI and includes a dashboard that allows you to view detailed analytics that give you insight into not just the score of the content, which is normally what you'd get from your LMS, but how that content is being used. Okay, so let's look deeper at those platforms we just talked about that are supported by those publish options. The bottom row you see here, it lists all of the headsets that have native Scenario VR apps available, right? So you're covering all of the headsets that are out there. But truly, it's not even just those. Any headset that has a browser can actually run content in full VR, even if that content is running on your LMS. So published HTML or SCORM content is intelligent in that it understands if the browser that it's running is capable of going into VR, meaning if it's a browser inside of a headset, and if so, it displays a goggles icon. And when you select that goggles icon, it enables full VR. So imagine that, virtual reality from your LMS. Oh, and okay, one thing I didn't mention earlier was the Igloo spaces. Scenario VR is also integrated with Igloo immersive spaces. So you can actually create full room size interactive immersive experiences for groups. So put 20 people in a room, have them go through a virtual reality experience together. You can do that with Scenario VR. And what about tracking results? Well, in SCORM, you normally get just a score and a completion status. But with immersive content, there can be much more you want to track. Any content published to Scenario VR itself is natively XAPI. So without any extra effort, you'll be able to track every interaction that a user makes within your scenario. You can even create custom data points and track them in aggregate across all your learners. If you have your own LRS, you can automatically report all of your rich XAPI data to your system and to use as you wish. So many times we get a question about those custom data points, and people assume that you have to do custom programming inside of Scenario VR. There is no custom programming inside of Scenario VR. All you have to do is create a variable and then set the variable with a value. So if you want to track, whether somebody has been to a room, you can say, been to this room, create variables for each of those and set them to true. And then on the other end, Scenario VR will aggregate all of that content and display it graphically as to which of your users were in that room, which of your users answered that question. Maybe you want to see if they opened a door or which one they went to first. You can track each of those individually. So you can find out how your content is being used and just get more deep understanding of what is going on inside of your content. So much more than just a score. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some procedural training that was created as immersive learning. We're going to look at delivery driver training from Wincanton, seizure training from New Cross Healthcare, and then return to work techniques by Health Education England. So our first example is from Wincanton. You may be familiar with this. They're a leading supply chain company there in the UK who wanted to create training on the 3 situations they identified as their biggest risk areas in warehouses and during deliveries. These were cage falls, where a rack of goods falls off a delivery truck, dropped trailers, where a trailer is improperly hooked up to its cab, and red light pull-offs, when a driver leaves a loading area before the load is secured. They tried training on these topics before, but they never really saw improvements in the rates of incidents. Obviously, they used all the things that we all use, PDFs and PowerPoints, and then some traditional e-learning. So they decided to try immersive learning for something completely new. Training was delivered via their LMS using immersive 360 videos and interactivity, which was developed using Scenario VR. What they experienced was much higher completion rates with the new training and much lower incidents after the training was rolled out. So I have a little video to show you. It kind of goes over what the training is like.
As part of our culture of care and investing in the safety of our people, we asked Video Interact to produce some interactive 360 filmed VR courses to cover the 3 major accidents and incidents that occur in our transport operation: cage falls, dropped trailers, and red light pull-offs. Each topic needed a narrative that would reflect the daily experiences of our drivers, office and warehouse staff, all of whom play a part in preventing these incidents. The courses had to be deliverable in group training sessions, as well as being available on mobile devices for individuals to watch by themselves. Filming in 360 allowed us to create that feeling of being in the midst of the action in the warehouses and bays of a busy distribution centre. And, as everything was filmed at the Thameside depot using our own people, and a friendly supermarket manager when we filmed the sequence for the Cage Falls course, the course has real authenticity. Viewers are given opportunities to do quizzes, spot hazards, and and consider the characters' situations, making the courses much more than simple passive sets of instructions. This is in-depth, focused, reflective learning. And, of course, the great thing about having a filmed resource in a business as geographically diverse as ours is that it can be seen at any time by anybody if they feel they need to refresh their learning, or if the business feels that a particular topic needs a boost.
So one of the main key takeaways there is they used their actual employees to do a lot of the filming, so they didn't have to hire actors to do that. They even got one of the store managers to come out. Never underestimate people's desire to be a movie star. they will probably want to do it. So you can look at it that way. You don't really have to go through and hire an actor. Many of these people who perform the jobs are the perfect people to do it. Okay, next let's look at New Cross Healthcare. So New Cross wanted to train their home healthcare providers on how to handle a seizure situation on the job. And they could have gone the route of providing standard manuals, but they wanted their employees to feel like they've experienced it before so they could calmly react if it occurred while working. So let's take a look at that is training on that, on the job experience. They start out with a group of people, and those people are just working away on some dishes, cleaning, and then you get introduced to the people. They bring up little information about each person in the room so you know what's going on in the room. And this is just me walking through the content itself. After we've been introduced to everyone, we now get into the experience. Once we're in the experience, they're chatting with each other a little bit. He's going to go out and do something over there. And then this gentleman's doing the dishes, and you expect the problem maybe to be with the patient. They're walking over to the patient, handling patient care. The gentleman on the left is really just working on a spreadsheet or something. I'm not really sure what he's doing. But you go through a normal day. We're setting the situation. And now the situation is set. We're about to come into the issue that occurs. Normally, when you go in here, you expect the issue to happen with the patient, but that's not always the case. In this case, one of the actual home healthcare workers experiences a seizure. So while that's going on, he's not really, again, he's not paying enough attention. They're going on. Now he sees what's going on. You follow it around. He's not sure what to do. Fortunately, the other gentleman comes back into the room. He does know what to do. And then now that the stage has been set, you're actually experiencing this. And trust me, inside of a headset, you were there. It then proceeds to present you with some questions, what you should do. Gives you a little heartbeat to make you a little nervous while you're doing it. The answer is to actually place something soft on their head. They give you a nice visual feedback on that. Place something soft, because most people actually injure themselves by banging their head into things as well. You then go through. He asks him to move the chair because he can bang his leg into the chair and injure himself there. So you get to experience as if you were there and you saw it happen. Then the gentleman here on the left, he actually says what a lot of people have heard about before. I've heard that you're supposed to put a spoon in somebody's mouth when they get a seizure. Definitely not, by the way, just in case you're wondering. So he tells them to calm down and go forward. And it goes through this procedure all the way through till the end, and just gives you an idea. So you get to experience it, but you can experience it on a phone, tablet, or in a headset as well. It's produced to operate in all of those environments. Just gives you that calm and reassuring thing that you've been there before. If it does happen on the job, I know what to do. I know the wrong things to do. This has multiple branching paths you can take that bring you through the wrong path if you get it wrong. Okay, so for our last slide, which appears to be a completely blank slide, but the video starts as a white background. That's why it looks like a blank slide. But let's look at Health Education England. So they're with the NHS, and they wanted to create an innovative course as a part of their supported return to training. It's called Support Program, where they immerse their learners in that first unaccompanied shift of Dr. Lucy Jones as she returns to a normal work environment after all of the changes that went on during COVID. A lot of people had to come back in, get used to that normal environment. They've been out for years. And so they did this by following Lucy as she manages patients, relatives, and colleagues across a number of disciplines and even a medical emergency that comes up. And then we get to see how she uses communication techniques to make herself heard, so she can raise concerns and really regain her confidence to speak up at the workplace. So they use many expert voices. They comment on the action as it's going on. They give guidance to learners. There's quizzes, challenges, pauses for reflection. The idea is that by completing this course, the learner should be able to build their own confidence and learn techniques to help them raise concerns and so that they can rise to that challenge of returning to work. Let's take a look at that.
The supported Return to Work training team have developed an interactive 360 VR resource, which follows Dr. Lucy Jones as she returns to work after a significant absence. Asked to cover a night shift, she negotiates with colleagues, patients, and their relatives, manages a genuine emergency, and quickly finds her feet again in the workplace. Viewers can see everything that happens, gain insights into the thoughts and feelings of Lucy's patients and her team, listen to expert testimony, and experience the rollercoaster of a busy night shift. As they complete this immersive learning resource, health professionals will explore techniques and develop skills which will enable them to escalate concerns and speak up. They will develop their ability to manage challenging conversations and situations, skills that are increasingly recognized as contributing to the quality and safety of care for patients.
So hopefully seeing some of these examples will give you ideas of how you can actually apply this to your situation. That's one of the biggest challenges of going forth into something new, is understanding how you can apply new types of learning techniques to your situation. And so I am now going to be turning it over to Stephen Baer, who will bring us into gamification. Stephen.
Super. Well, thanks very much. Let me share my screen and we'll keep going. So there's a lot of overlap between a lot of what John is focused on from a virtual reality standpoint and gamification overall. In fact, I'm going to show you one of the examples I'll show you utilizes VR for gamification. But I want to start by just talking about why gamification to begin with. When we think about gamification, or games for that matter, the reality is that nearly half the world reflects as being a gamer of some sort. That might be pen and paper, that might be mobile devices, that might be social, that might be console. It doesn't really matter, but a lot of people play games. And if they're not playing games in that form, certainly they're experiencing games in their everyday life. That might be tracking our steps. That might be collecting points when we go to Starbucks to be able to get free things. That might be looking at our dashboards of our cars just to see, playing a little game of how we're driving. Games overall provide a very safe space to fail, to learn, and to succeed in the workforce. And I think that that's one of the most important things that you're going to see from both virtual reality and games. They provide that environment for you to really engage and try things out and learn from your mistakes. Games also provide a social experience. Now that, in a few different ways. They allow people to work collaboratively. They allow people to work competitively. They allow people to share their progress and their success with others. Games really help bring people together. And so that's fantastic. The other thing that, people ask me often is, well, who's playing games, right? Who are these 3.3 billion people? And, these stats I'm showing here happen to be US based, but I think that they are indicative of what we see around the globe. You're showing you on the left-hand side, gamers by age, those who are reflecting and calling themselves out as gamers. And I'm showing you on the right-hand side, the US workforce and the by age. And the really neat thing is you can see a very significant overlap between these two graphs. Games provide a lot of value when it comes to certainly higher order thinking, whether it's strategic thinking skills, whether it's interpretive analysis, whether it's plan formation, adaptation to rapid change. They're really teaching us all these skills. I talk often about what are the performance objectives that you want and what are the skills that you want, and these are some of the skills that come out of it. And it's not just those high-end skills, it's certainly soft skills as well. Emotional intelligence, communication skills, problem solving, collaboration, all can be accomplished through playing different games, simulating out different experiences, and really working through them in a virtual environment. One thing that I get asked a lot is what is the right type of game I should use? And ultimately it comes down to what is the performance objective that you have. Are you trying to get people to recall things or categorize things, visualize things, articulate things, decode, emphasize? These are 6, but there are obviously dozens of performance objectives out there. So really identifying what you want them to do and then finding the right type of game to help them do that. The other thing that we think about is the learner. Ultimately, what is their motivation to playing a game? And the reality is that it's not one size fits all. I often break down learners into these 4 groups: your achievers, explorers, socializers, and fighters. And when I think about them, I think that there are different types of motivations for each. So maybe there's the achiever who wants to become better at what they're doing, mastering a skill. There's the explorer who wants to just solve different things or discover different things. The socializer who wants to feel useful to others, who wants to be praised and recognized, or the fighter who just wants to win, no matter what. They just want to win. And so you want to make sure that the content you're building is going to appeal to any of these 4 groups, and certainly these different types of motivations. I'm going to show you 3 different examples now of games, and then I'm going to show you some turnkey solutions as well. This first one actually leverages Scenario VR as the platform. And what's great is, as John mentioned, there's 0 coding required, but you're going to see very high-end production value. So why don't we take a look?
Introducing CyberCatch. CyberCatch is a fully immersive experience where the player is assigned the role of hacker at a white hat hacking facility, aka ethical hacking.
Each floor is a different level of hacker. The better you do, the further down you go. Make it through the first 3 floors, and you're in.
By stepping into the shoes of a hacker, players get first-hand experience on what to look out for during a cyber attack, but this time from the attacker's perspective.
Hey, it looks like you made it. Uncle Lenny sent these. Here.
In the simulation, HackOps, the world's elite white hat cyber defense organization, needs your help. Your target is Bob, aka Bob Bag of Donuts. He was a small-time hacker until he got caught. He hooked up with a crime ring while he was in prison, and now he oversees their team of hackers.
All right. The only way to vet new hackers is to get them hacking, right? Folks downstairs can do magic with just a little bit of stolen data. If you can't do the same, identify and exploit a good target, well, then there's really no point in keeping you around.
Under the guise of an up-and-coming hacker, your mission is to infiltrate this dark web goat to learn their secrets and sharpen your cybersecurity skills. Through the help of the faceless recruiter, Uncle Lenny.
When you get to the target site, look for this hidden security keypad.
And Inside Eyes plus Covert Ops, learners are taken through progressively harder scenarios and are assigned the task of solving hacks as they are presented. Dive into this fully immersive virtual reality experience. Explore every hallway, every corner, and every clue to successfully hack your way into this notorious crime ring system to bring justice to all its victims while simultaneously learning firsthand how you can prevent a cyber attack yourself. One day, you'll take them all down, but for now, just keep your head in the game. It's training day.
So there are a few things that I want to bring to your attention here. We leveraged Scenario VR to build this out. All the actors you're seeing were done just with green screen, and then we utilized the Unreal Engine to design the backgrounds. You don't have to do that. You can certainly take 360 files and from something like Turbo Squid and leverage an existing environment, but we decided to build them. The other thing that we did was we really poured our hearts into the script here. And I think that's really important when you think about any content you're building, is to make sure that it's going to appeal to your learners on one level or another, emotionally. might be something tugging at their heartstrings. It might be some tongue-in-cheek that is going to make them laugh and think about a character later on. It might create some anxiety because they have some time frame in which they need to accomplish something. The reality is that you want to make sure that you're delivering content in a way that they're going to say, gosh, I remember that because of X. So that's a lot of what we did here. And then we created some level of urgency, right? So there's dozens of little activities layered in this simulation that you need to do. And this is ultimately about cybersecurity training, but we decided to do it from, let's teach them what's going on from the cybersecurity hacker standpoint so they can understand what they need to be looking out for as the employee. So it's a lot of fun, this one. Okay, let's keep going. This next example I'm going to show you is a project we recently completed for Microsoft. And this one is targeting technology professionals. Let me play it and we can talk it through.
Microsoft Learn Cloud Games continues to offer the most innovative ways to sharpen your technical skills while challenging you to solve high-stakes, real-world problems with our latest game, Data Feeds. Data Feeds will level up your abilities across a wide range of Microsoft technologies in a game environment that feels timely, gripping, and immersive. The CEO of your boutique biotech company summons you to his office and tasks you to solve one of the world's thorniest challenges: food waste. 40% of the food in the United States is wasted, while 10% of the world is starving. Now he wants you to use data and AI solutions to solve the problem. Your 2-hour game experience begins in the lab, taking on one of the 3 roles: a data engineer, data scientist, or data analyst. Armed with the best available food waste data on the planet, you and your teammates set out to build a data storage system, dashboard, and model. Along the way, you'll get real input and feedback from the executive team. Everything you do will be measured by the Insight Engine, which tracks your progress step by step and acts as both game board and scoreboard. You can even replay activities to refine your skills and improve your score. You'll work closely with your team to complete mini games and hands-on missions, which contribute to the ultimate goal: to finish your demo, produce a model, and export the scored data for the analyst's presentation. Just as you make your recommendation for what area of food waste crisis your data and AI solution can solve, your CEO gives you the news: this is not a drill. The model you've built in the lab is being shipped immediately and put to the test in the real world. Welcome to the next level. Now your team is tasked with putting your food waste solution to work in a remote corner of the world that's just been struck by a natural disaster. Now lives are on the line. Can your data and AI-based solution be applied successfully in a high-stakes situation? You can only find out by playing Data Feeds. Solve real-world challenges by sharpening your technical skills. Only with Microsoft Learn Cloud Games.
Okay, hopefully you're actually paying more attention to this video than my glasses, but I do appreciate the comments. I love this example in particular because this is, once again, it's about storytelling, right? It's about making sure that you can take something that is highly technical. We built out a sandbox of a number of systems that Microsoft's had. Have you really play through those systems and solve real-world problems, but through the light of a story. And I think that's what's, once again, you're going to see an ongoing theme here. I think that storytelling is really critical. All right, I'm going to go to one more example.
Microsoft.
This example leverages an intellectual property that many of us are familiar with, Minecraft. And one of the things that I think is most people think of Minecraft as something that children in the elementary school age are doing, but it turns out that the average Minecraft player is a 24-year-old male. So I think that will provide some context as to why this mechanic was used for this initiative. Okay.
Experience CareersCraft, Careers Wales's new Minecraft world to help young people learn more about their skills and the world of work. Visit famous Welsh landmarks linked to areas of learning in Wales's new curriculum and meet characters to help you along the way. Discover the expressive arts at the Millennium Centre and find out about different creative roles. Design your own stage set and organise your own production. Take a tour of medieval Caernarfon Castle, meeting those who live and work there. Learn about the modern day version of these roles and organise your own event. Learn more about you in 10B. Map out your career and discover more about your skills, interests and strengths. Take a quiz to find out what jobs might suit you. Head over to the Big Pit where they need your help to clear a blocked mine shaft. Develop your skills and knowledge of careers in science and technology and use these to save the day. Visit the Coal Exchange to test your maths and numeracy skills. Meet different traders and gain knowledge along the way to turn your coal into gold. At the Senedd, apply to be Wales's first Minister of Minecraft. Meet people to help you with this and learn more about careers in language, literacy and communications. Finally, explore the Museum of Me to save, build and proudly display your achievements. For further information, visit careerswales.gov.wales and search CareersCraft.
Okay, and so that's a great example of certainly leveraging a fun mechanic that many people are familiar with. There's 140 million active users a month on Minecraft and over 500 million folks who have downloaded the platform over the years. So it's leveraging something that is a familiar space and telling a story and allowing people to really explore. Okay. So I wanted to show some custom examples. I also wanted to just showcase another platform that John referenced, which is the Training Arcade. And the Training Arcade is more of a turnkey solution. So if you say, you know what, I don't have months or I don't have the budget to build something like that, you can deploy games like these, which are more like micro games, in an hour or less, and certainly a fraction of the cost. The Training Arcade comes with 10 different game types. It is available in 20 different languages, and it plugs seamlessly into any learning platform through SSO integration, and then as well as allowing you to publish out the content with SCORM or XAPI data. But it also allows you to be really really flexible with what you're doing, right? It allows you to add as many questions as you want, add the type of media that you want, whether that's video, audio, or images, allows you to use a variety of different question types, allows you to create copies of those games and customize them based off of different functions or hierarchy. It gives you immediate data in the form of leaderboards and a very comprehensive data analytics dashboard. And allows you to push them out wherever you want, right? So that's really fun. That's not just as a SCORM or XAPI file, but you can also publish it as URL or an embed code so it can sit in any website. The other thing I wanted to bring your attention to is if you're looking to house the games because you don't have a place for them, we also offer what is called the arcade. And the arcade is really accomplishes a few things. Not only does it obviously house those 10 different games, but it gives you a few modes that you can play them. So you can play solo by yourself, or you can go head to head with another person, or you can play as part of a team. It also allows you to do different missions and learning journeys. So whether you're playing games, watching videos, reading material, doing any activities, you're getting points and badges and leaderboards for all those things you're doing. And then the nice thing is that those things rack up and you're able to get prizes as a result. Also comes with very comprehensive analytics. And I think this is really important to note, certainly in the platform that John was showing, Scenario VR, as well as the Training Arcade. It's not just important in my mind to give an active learning experience. It's important as trainers for us to understand what do our people know and what can we know about them from a persona standpoint based on the way that they are performing in game. And both these platforms give you a tremendous amount of data. And I just wanted to bring a particular study to your attention. This is something we did about a year ago. We looked at all 10 game mechanics. We looked at 2,500 games created across a variety of subscribers. There was over 350,000 learners, which was about 140 learners per game. And we saw a few stats that I think are really critical. So the first one is that we saw that the average game was just under 4 minutes long. The second one is we saw that nearly 60% of people played 3 or more times. So that's 12 minutes or so, right? 3 times 4. And we saw that in that 12 minutes, between the first and the third gameplay, there was a 58% improvement in knowledge. Well, that's pretty phenomenal if you ask me, right? You think just about driving 58% improved knowledge in 12 minutes. That's great. And it's not terribly surprising, though, because what games are doing is they're immersing someone in an experience. They're allowing them to try something. They're giving them feedback, which many of us desire, and they're allowing them to try again until they really get it right. And that is really important. Is I think when you're talking about virtual reality simulations or you're talking about games, it's really giving them a practice playground to try things, learn from their mistakes, and be able to course correct in the future. Okay, I think that's it for slides right now. Maybe we can take a moment. I'll stop sharing and we'll move over to some questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Let me put my camera on. Not everyone needs to see me, but there we are. That's me. Thank you, Stephen. Of course, hang on. I get used to the idea of Stephen changing his glasses during the course of this, but John, you seem somehow different.
I'm not going to let him show me up. I can't. I'm just not going to.
All I can do is take mine off and put them back on again. Right. Let's concentrate on the world of what you've just shown us. Brilliant. A lot of people loving it. Sean says, I created some games in Adobe Captivate using the ELB learning templates. They're really great, easy to configure for your own use. Thank you very much for that. A lot of questions coming here. I have some questions myself. I want to start off with Angeline's question, Angeline Manley, because it has a knock-on effect as well. In an environment that has multiple language diversity, is there an opportunity to be able to make language selectable, or do you have to create a different... I'm going to start with VR, a different VR or Stephen, different game for each language. So, John, do you want to go first?
Yes. So in VR, you're typically it's audio-visual environment, and so you'll have a lot of voiceovers, a lot of recordings, things like that. So in order to create a single most people actually create multiple things for each language. Some of our customers, however, for shorter pieces, I have seen many people use different sections, and you just jump to them based upon language. So you can create a section, but it's not textual. Most of the information is not textual. And so, yeah, you will have to create separate areas to do different recordings for those different areas.
Okay. Stephen?
Yeah, so on the training arcade, we've basically built it so you can customize your language a few different ways. So the first thing is when you're building out your games, you determine what your default language is. You're going to write all your content in your default language. And if you choose to localize into multiple languages, you can basically export a CSV file that has all your questions, all your answers, give it to your localization team. They can basically update that CSV file or an Excel file, upload it right back into our platform. And that provides the option to have, up to 20 different languages, so that when the learner comes, they come to the game, and they basically, it defaults to English or whatever language you want to default to. It says, do you want to play in English or do you want to play in a different language? They can drop down and say, I want to play in Spanish. And everything basically transitions all over to Spanish immediately. So we've tried to make it so that it's available for multi-language and quite easy for the end user. I will say, interestingly enough, we've tried to make that actually a very versatile function. Despite the fact that the vast majority or many of our users happen to be multinational organizations, it is very rare. I'd say maybe 5-10% of people are actually leveraging that, but it's very easy if you do want to leverage it.
It may be rare, but it may be more used in the future. We don't know. I think we've had a bit of a hoo-ha in the UK about one of the Welsh players, Ben Davies, who speaks fluent English, speaking Welsh on the BBC. And some people are getting up in arms about it. The fact is that actually most people in the world speak more than one language. So I think we can't underestimate the value of that for the future. Follow-up question. This is from me, Don Taylor. what about the maintenance of this stuff in the future? I mean, John, I'm very impressed with how easy it is to create this stuff in VR. But what about when you need to change a graphic or some tool changes? Do you need to reshoot everything? How easy is it to edit?
No, and that's the strength of the tool.
Okay, by the way, people, this was not a set-up question. I was expecting John to say that's a really difficult question. John, go on.
No, that is an easy question because that is the strength of the tool. You can think of using scenario VR about like using PowerPoint. That's the level of difficulty you're going to have in it. If you want, it's as if anything, it's an onion. You can feel deeper down into it and get to part assemblies and drag and drop and motion paths. But it just replacing images, replacing videos, point click, republish, you're good to go. Happens all the time. That's the strength of the tool itself, is that you have that ability to do it.
Right. It's not like a long bit of film, which is really difficult to edit. Stephen?
Right. Yeah, same thing on the training arcade side. And quite honestly, that is our philosophy across the ELB learning period, right? We've tried to make all of our tools very easy to update on the fly. They're all HTML based platforms, so that if you need to change something, it's available for real-time updates. All someone needs to do is either log in or they need to refresh, and that content is updated.
Cool. John, Sean asks, and this I think just for you, is what are the benefits of 360 projects that you were showing over standard training videos with hotspots on them?
Sure. And so the benefit is the feeling of presence, right? You're able to exercise a person's spatial awareness. With a standard 2D video, you really have to lead the user. You only have that that little square for them to work with, and so you can't have them find something, or you can't have them make their own path because their path is generally set. When you give them an immersive experience, they're choosing their own path. They're choosing their own way. They're looking. They're finding. It's all about spatial awareness we're going on. So very different. Remember, you're trying to exercise or store things in a different area of your brain. Make it feel like you've been there before. That's the whole idea with immersive learning.
It's that degree of engagement with it. Now, talking about engagement, Brendan asks a really, really important question about accessibility. We're dealing here with something that's extremely visually focused. What about people who may use voice commands instead of the mouse keyboard recognition? So let's say they're not visually impaired, but they may be using voice commands rather than other things to navigate. How easy is it to use one of these VR tools? And then, Stephen, I'll come on to you. John.
So for VR in itself is generally not accessible, right? It is a audio-visual medium, and it focuses generally on that. And those are the limitations in which WCAG attempts to address. Now, there are some things we've definitely done. You can put up subtitle text on any audio that's going on. But as far as selecting in a 3D world and navigating a 3D world with voice, no, it's not something that's very accessible. Generally, we suggest you put if you need something that's extremely accessible, you'll have a secondary piece that's accessible along with it to allow that to happen.
Steven?
Yeah, it's same thing on the game side. Well, we do have some games like our trivia game that are certainly check off the vast majority of the WCAG boxes. The reality is that there are still limitations, and certainly when you think about the games that are a little more action oriented, like endless jumpers or match 3 games where you have things moving around, or you allowed someone to customize the colors to be around the brand guidelines that they have, you're going to have limitations. So we often find that those who require that level of compliance will offer a secondary option for their employees, and it's a shame because it's a really hard thing to overcome, certainly with this form of medium. It's
a limitation more of the medium and the approach itself, perhaps, rather than any particular tool associated with it.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick asks, the VR examples look really good for making a situation feel real and memorable, and the interactions we saw had quite traditional interactions like multiple choice. Do you think it'll ever be possible for people to interact in the same way that they do in, virtual sports, for example, or indeed now in Zoom, you lift your hand up and it can put up the raise hand thing for you automatically, detects what you're doing. Do you think that'll ever be possible in the future? And how much autonomy do learners have to explore? And do you think even there's a possibility of having different levels of autonomy for different levels or different types of learner, perhaps based on their experience. So a few things in there, John. Let's start off with different types of interaction in VR.
So the answer is yes, and it's there today. Inside of Scenario VR, again, without any programming, you can create drag and drop interactions. You can create part assemblies. You can use animated 3D objects, and you can interact with those animated 3D objects in real time. Or you can have the student or the learner interact with those objects as well. And all that is built in. I didn't have an example to show in there, but I mean, I literally have some examples of people assembling parts, and you have to choose a set of parts and snap them into place, and they have to be snapped in the correct place. And so you get that sort of visual interaction in Scenario VR today. That is available today.
And I'll just say, one more example, and I don't have some of this in there, but that example that we showed of Hack Ops, that has dozens of mini activities that are all computer-based, which are not multiple choice. It's rather going through exercises and learning what is required when it comes to hacking a system. So that might be doing some code, that might be doing some exploration. Certainly there's lots beyond just multiple choice that you can use that environment for. And I've seen a number of really good examples in Scenario VR that do that.
Okay, so the follow-up to that then is this business about autonomy. Less so, I think, for you, Stephen, more about the VR world. John, in the VR world, should we be giving people, or not should we, but is it possible to give people different levels of autonomy in terms of exploring their environment?
Absolutely. So you can just build it out. Perhaps you've pre-tested them and you know the level that they're at. You can expose different things. Everything is built with conditions and variables, so you can conditionally show different levels of autonomy within there. So maybe you're going to allow this person to completely free roam. Maybe you've determined they need a little assistance to get around, so you can, kind of show them a little hint here and there. All that's available within the tool. Absolutely.
And no coding.
No coding. Zero coding.
Okay, Stephen.
Well, it's same thing. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of overlap still in the gaming space. Whether certainly in the custom gaming world, and then when it comes to the product that we reviewed, the Training Arcade, there's a very similar. Yeah,
brilliant. Nick, thank you for the question, because that's actually a much more comprehensive set of answers than I was expecting. I thought they were going to say, yeah, it's coming down the road, it's in the roadmap, but apparently it's already here. It's a question from Matt. Yes, it does. Nick says, "Oh, that sounds very impressive." I agree, it does. Matt had a question here. It's about some very specific technologies. John, I'm going to ask you and Stephen to have a look at that question by Matt at the bottom of it. If you think you can answer it, great. I'm not sure if it's something for the general conversation. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back to my list of questions that I had myself. Very straightforward question. I think you've answered it, John, already. We've seen you portraying this on the screen. It's a very simple question. I know what the answer is, so I just want to get it quite clear. Do you need a headset to do this stuff in VR? No.
You do not.
Tell me more. What can you see it on?
So you can publish out and view it on a standard web browser. As a matter of fact, the builder itself is in a web browser. It's SaaS-based. You can view it on, we have apps for iOS and Android, in which you can view it on a standard phone. You can actually use the web browser on the phone as well. You can use it on tablets. Tablets are actually a great way to roll out training. You get that window to the world. As you move the tablet, it moves you around the 360 space. So it kind of feels like you're looking through a window at this immersive environment. So it's a good way to do it. And then, of course, the most immersive is inside the headset as well. But all those are available with a single publish within Scenario VR.
And of course, the same, I'm guessing, Stephen, is true, as you're saying, lots of overlap.
A lot of overlap, absolutely.
Cool. That's it. Look, that's it on questions in our list in the middle there. I've got, David was saying 10B looks amazing in Minecraft. I agree, David. What amazed me was the fact that the sun was shining and the sky was blue over 10B, which being in Wales is a bit notorious for being slightly wet. I have been to a number of those places, including the Big Pit. I'm delighted that it's now on Minecraft. Very impressive. We've got 2 minutes before we wrap up. I think that's our questions done, unless you want to answer Matt's, which looks very...
I'll get to Matt's also, and Jonathan asked, he says, do you have stats on performance as
well? Oh, sorry, I missed Jonathan out. Excuse me. Go ahead. Yes, John.
I don't have stats to provide you, but that is not an issue. We have a worldwide CDN with over 250 points of presence throughout the entire globe. We roll out thousands, is not even beginning to challenge us as far as, I mean, millions is fine. So yes, 4K video, high bandwidth content worldwide, no problem. Matt, he uses 360 virtual tours via RoundMe. I actually have seen RoundMe. I kind of like RoundMe. As far as its use with a headset, I'm not too sure. Be sure that with Scenario VR, you will be able to use it with a headset. You can create tours as well. The difference is with RoundMe, it's really just tours. It is much, much deeper. I suggest really take a look at what the capabilities are, how much more you can do with a tool that's really built for learning, for virtual learning.
That's brilliant. And look, thank you for failing in my job there, too caught up in the excitement of it all. Thank you for picking up on Jonathan's point, and it was a very good one. Is there sufficient support there? And did you answer Matt's as well?
Yes.
Fantastic. Right, we've got 30 seconds left. Final points, John, Stephen, how do you want to wrap up? What do you want to say to get people excited about this? Apart from saying, look on the left-hand side there, throughout the past 10 minutes, we've had your links to your free trial for the Training Arcade, free trial for Scenario VR, and going through to the website as well. Do you want people to contact you on LinkedIn, guys?
Yeah, well, I think I speak on behalf of John. You know, one of the things that we're always happy to do is talk about these mediums and ideas, whether it's, you know, leveraging our team to support you or just picking our brain. You know, it's something that we both are very passionate about. So please reach out at any time.
Fabulous. John and I first met in 2015 in Nashville when we were, John reminded me, cycling around Nashville drinking. That's a legitimate thing to do, by the way, strange though it may seem. And I'm delighted that firstly, it hasn't got run over in the interim. And secondly, that Lectora and ELB Learning continue to grow and be, as you said right at the beginning, such fabulous tools for getting the job done rather than focusing on how you do it, learning how to code and so on. And that's been the aim from the start, hasn't it, John?
Absolutely. Make
Fantastic.
it easy for anyone to create learning.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. John Blackmon, Stephen Baer of ELB Learning. Really good to have two accomplished presenters with really solid content sharing it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for your sharing of your thoughts and your questions today. It's been great to have you with us. Look forward to seeing you, gosh, in 2 weeks' time on the 15th of December, our next Learning and Skills Group webinar. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.